Hello and welcome to another episode of Crossing the Line, Tales from the Entertainment Industry. And today's guest has worked in the voiceover world extensively in both Canada and the UK, and also as an actor, but most recently has joined the podcast medium with her very own show, Actor and Agent, which is available on Spotify now. Jennifer Bradley, thank you for coming on.
It's good to be here. Feels good.
And where else is your podcast available? Spotify?
I think it's on pretty much everything. It's on Spotify, Apple, Pandora. Is it Pandora? Yeah. Pandora, maybe.
I've never heard of that.
Podbean.
Oh, yeah. I listened to that before. That's good.
There's I could go on and on. I think it's also on Alexa. Alexa
Really?
Oh, really? So
Yes.
you could just go like, Alexa, play my podcast.
Oh, I do sometimes. I'm like, Alexa, play Actor and Agent.
And then it's got me.
Yeah, exactly.
Very good.
Let me listen while I'm doing some cleaning.
Excellent.
This is the first time we've had a podcaster on the show, and we thought we'd get you on because we wanted to build a little bit of a community, another podcaster. You've just started we still feel quite new as a podcast, but we're sort of 18 months old-ish, with a little bit of a break in the middle due to current events. But how did your podcast come to fruition? How did you build it? What gave you the idea? Was it your idea, someone else's idea? Because you co-host, don't you, with, is it your agent?
Yes, she does actually represent me out in Canada. Yes. It was my idea. I guess I'd always kind of wanted to do a podcast because I'm kind of obsessed with listening to podcasts myself. But I was like, what can I possibly do as a podcast? Because I'm usually so obsessed with crime and unfortunately murder. So I listen to a lot of those kind of serial crazy.
If you're watching the video, she's broadcasting from her cell, as you can see.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm kept in here most times. Yeah. It is soundproof, so no one can hear me scream. That sounds really creepy. But yeah.
That's the tagline for the podcast.
Yeah.
No one can hear you
no
scream.
one can hear you scream. And I just, to be honest, I was like, oh, I really want to do something. And I think I was thinking about it December last year. And then I was like, oh, I was too afraid to just do it on my own. So I was like, okay, I wonder if I can get my very good friend Snezina, who also happens to be an agent, to join me on a podcast talking all things actory and the industry. Thing is, it's difficult because it's like, there's so many podcasts out there, and there's loads of podcasts that are like active podcasts as well. And you're just kind of like, should I do it? And I'm like, screw it. I might as well. I'm enjoying whilst I'm doing it, even if no one listens. I don't care. I like it. It's fun.
But you're not having another one doesn't take it away from anyone else. You kind of just share an audience, don't you? It's not like they're going to stop listening to another one or stop listening to yours. They're just going to listen to yours in addition. That's what I was told when we sort of started up, some of the advice that was given us. And you've just started with video, haven't you, as well? You just added video for the first time, which is not out yet. It's coming out this week.
No. We're far ahead. We've got
we too. We're ahead as well. Definitely.
No, we've got. So I'm releasing episode 8 tomorrow, but the first full episode with video is episode 11, and that's going to be at the end of May. So basically, I'm planned all up until May, and then we're doing another video episode recording another one on Friday. And she's a casting associate for this. They're very, very big in Canada. They helped cast Juno and Rise Against the Planet of the Apes and some other cool shit. So it'd be quite funny to talk to her.
And were these people that your agent, your co-host, were able to get hold of for you?
Yeah, so she Snezina used to work with this lady Maria, and so far most of the people, barring I guess this lady that we're interviewing on Friday, and also Sinead Curry, who we also interviewed, everyone else is pretty much grabbed by me. I'm like very much like, hey, want to be on a podcast?
What made you ask her? Because I'm sure you have friends over here on this side of the pond as well.
You think, would you?
That sounds like such an accusatory question.
No,
do you know what I mean?
I love it. No, that's great. It's like, Jen, you do have friends over here, right?
That's another curb your collie cut moment.
Well, I do have friends over here. But I thought what would make it a bit more unique as coming to the podcast whatever, would be to have something that was a bit more unique, as in like, so it was being co-hosted by not just an actor, but an agent as well. And so, and I think obviously as it's going along, I feel like Snezhina's getting more comfortable in front of the microphone and expressing her opinions a little bit more and kind of giving advice. I think she's starting to enjoy that. I think it depends on the guest and it depends on whether she feels confident enough to kind of jump in. But that's kind of what I wanted. I thought, I mean, I could have just done it by myself, but I think I liked the idea of having that kind of it being a little bit more there's a bit more weight behind it because there's also an agent involved, but she's also a human being, and you know that, and it's also
we
like
must remember that about agents.
Yeah, they are and you know she can be weird and she can be a little bit strange, so I think in a way it's kind of good because it kind of humanizes that like agent like facade that a lot of people feel like, oh, they're terrifying, when actually she does like Gollum voices and stuff. So
that's great. And I completely agree with you that having another person on does bring on that other opinion, that other way of thinking, another person to fall back on questions.
I disagree.
Hard.
I'm joking.
Wow.
Not really.
But like there'll be times where you'll be talking to somebody and your brain will just kind of go a bit blank at times. But having the other person there is really good to fall back on, but also to be able to spare a different point of conversation that you might not have thought to open. Absolutely.
Actually, out of curiosity, like how did it come to fruition for you guys to start a podcast? Because I'm
great question, Jennifer, and one we have prepared. No, so we're both actors, and we had been doing a show for it was like a scratch night thing, wasn't it? Yeah, and basically we'd been putting the same bit together, and we had been doing loads of quotes of dodgeball and stuff like that at each other, and then we just got talking afterwards, and we both had a really good film knowledge. And then Ollie said we should do a podcast together.
It wasn't just about the films and stuff.
Oh,
it was just
so
like,
Ollie was the one who approached you. He was like, "Hey, do you want to do?"
Well, it was kind of like
nice.
Yeah. I mean, we kind of knew each other before anyway, kind of acquainted, didn't we? But we hadn't worked together. But we were working then, and then we were just like, it was just funny. We were like, everyone else was like miserable in the dressing room. We were just like the clowns, just like kicking it about and everything. And then I remember saying maybe we should just do a podcast. And then I thought, well, we couldn't really put this material online. Not because it was unsuitable, but just because it was just like a mess of just like laughter and just constant barrage of nonsense. And then Charlie was like, let's do a podcast, as he says. And I was like, let's do it. And then it was just an idea for a time.
It was one of those that was a bit like...
we didn't know anything about it, really, did we?
There was that aspect, but also when you're with your actor friends, you go, we should put together a theatre company. And you go, that'd be an amazing idea. And it never happens. I kind of thought it was going to be one of those again.
Oh, did you?
And then Ollie...
I was like selling a house and everything, getting ready for like...
Ollie was taking out a loan, selling a leg. And I then got a text one day saying, I've been researching all of the stuff that we'd need. I found this. It could be a really good price. Should we do it? And
because Sam, our editor, and sort of
shout
advisor,
out to Sam.
Yeah, big one for Sam. He can cut this bit if he wants to know. His boyfriend is a singer, and he knew all about the gear, and he literally gave me like a presentation on it and said, like, you need this microphone, or here is a selection of them. You need an interface. And I was like, what's that? It sounds like Star Warsy. I was like, right, okay. And then gave me the various specs and everything, and then I looked it up, and we said we wanted to do video because of it's easier to. Well, I don't know. I just liked it. I like the video. I like podcasts that have video, the option on there. And then we went through and gradually collated all this stuff, and then we got an engineer in who taught us how to use it all. And
the engineer story was quite funny though, because we spent ages. We had no idea we had no idea how to work an interface. It was one of those where I had. An Adobe, or I have Adobe Audition, which is what I use to record our voices.
Same.
And it's great, but I had no idea how that linked to that. And
of course.
It was a lot in like wave platforms and whatever. And we tried to get some guys in just to show us how to do it. And for so long they were like, well, that doesn't work for us. Because
we want you. Why would we tell you how to do it? Because almost suggesting that we'd get an engineer in each time to record. And at the time we were like, oh, maybe we'll need to do that. And it's like,
Oh,
really,
man.
you don't.
No.
You just click record and just plug this in, and it splits it into 3 different ways. But to try and find an engineer was a nightmare. I was on social media looking for people, but we got a guy in the end, and he was great. And
then
he
yeah,
sorted
we
us out.
started going from there, and you brought on the first guest, didn't you? You got the
Was it
Craig
Caitlin?
Craig Lappo.
No, that's the
Oh, no.
first one we released.
Ah.
The first one we got on was just the first guy who responded, because it was around Christmas time. We were
Professional.
Yeah, no, I meant as in they all responded, but it was just the first one that we ended up recording, because it was before Christmas, I think, or maybe around January time.
It was about October, November time.
We
wasn't
had Craig Lapper from the BBFC, the British Board of Film Classification, come on, and I feel bad about that episode, because it's a great episode, but the interface wasn't plugged properly, so the sound is good, but it doesn't split it into 3 different ways. It sounds slightly hollow. Although when you listen to some podcasts, it's done on like a phone, and we're like, okay, this is not so bad. But it was a good episode, and he gave us a lot of good, interesting information. But I was really nervous the first day. Well, we both were, weren't we? But you can't tell. Like, it was good when we watch it back.
No, it worked. It didn't show the bit before. I was going, this isn't working. Why is it not? Oh my god!
And because he was giving his time up, and his assistant was giving his time up, we were really conscious that we didn't want to waste his time. He's like he's very high up, and he's like the head of it, isn't he? Head of compliance.
No, head of compliance.
Yeah. So he's a big deal, and he's watched like every film you can think of.
We have a question that you may have seen at the end of all our episodes, where we ask
if she's got to the end of one of our episodes.
Have you watched any of our episodes?
Yes, I have watched. I've watched at least 5
17?
episodes.
Oh.
Well, then you know our final question, which comes up at the end of each episode, the film question.
Yeah.
Okay. And we had to change it for him, because usually we would ask this question.
Well, we wouldn't usually. It was our first episode. He's
our
buggered it up for us.
But our 3rd episode we released. Anyway, we said we would usually ask this question, but because it's you, is there a film that you would recommend that we watch? And he then gave us Come and See, which Ollie has watched and has lent to me, and I am still to watch.
Yeah, I'm looking around
Oh.
now.
Yeah.
I can't see it.
It's still my Xbox.
Yeah.
But it was one of those. I was going to start one day, and then you said no, I should hold off till I.
Yeah, I hadn't heard of it, and it's a Russian film, a Russian war film.
Oh.
It's very heavy. Alim, I can't pronounce his last name, Russian. I had to really search for it. It was either like buy a 50 quid like crap copy from England, or they released the new Blu-ray print, and I had to like order it from America for like 30 quid it was, and I had to wait weeks, and then I got it, and it was really good though, but it took me a while to get it. But definitely check that out. Come and See. And then we spoke to our last guest? No, last guest, Andrew, and he was like, yeah, it's like a heavy film, but it's good though. It's like a proper war film. There's no sort of like Disney ending. It's
Yeah, but I think sometimes that's better, because that's unfortunately war. You know, no one really wins.
No, well, that's exactly right. But yeah, definitely check that out.
So, with your podcast, you're with your agent. What are you aiming to do? Just to talk to lots and lots of people and find out more different sides of the industry from both of your perspectives, or what's your aim?
Crikey. I feel like there's a lot of aims. I feel like one aim is that by talking to more people, the more I learn, and the more other people will learn by listening. The second aim is also to kind of, I guess, demystify some things of people that who maybe might be thinking of getting into the industry or whatever.
Like cliches people think.
Yeah, like
all actors are millionaires or whatever.
Yeah, well, obviously that's incorrect. Yeah, exactly. Me too.
Yes.
Me too. Yeah. So, and also in a way, like I was actually talking about this with one of my friends who actually has given us the music for our podcast that's like opens it and ends it. His name's Jeff Bryant. And we were talking about the podcast, like my podcast, and it is kind of another way of like kind of finding the back door in a way. You know, when you kind of think that as an actor, you always see it as this long queue of people that you're like waiting in line for your turn. But doing a podcast in a way is like kind of looking for the back door to try and figure out, because it's easier to approach people when you're saying like, hey, you want to come on a podcast?
Another thing we thought about is it was going to be like, then we thought, well, let's get a guest on, because then it's at least, it's got some sort of nourishment for people to listen to rather than just us talk about whatever.
Well, we tried that, didn't we?
Yeah.
We tried because we were talking about wanting to bring out more and more content in the cases where we weren't able to get guests on. And so we came up with something cleverly called Between the Lines.
Nice.
A Crossing the Line podcast.
Nice.
And it was just about movies that we'd watched, and then we talked about a certain theme, didn't we?
Yeah, it was Christmas at the time. We were talking about Christmas films. We just felt it went really quickly.
Yeah.
It went really quickly, and we were like, God, like how much have we got enough in this episode for... Anyway, we weren't sure, but we thought maybe we'll just keep it to the guests for now. Or maybe when we get a bigger audience, people want to listen to a bit more like long form conversation. But also we thought, right, we'll give people, we don't want it to be about us, it's more about the guest, and we wanted it to be positive because this industry can slip into moaning about stuff, and we do all the time, of course, as everyone does. It's just human nature, but we didn't want it to sell it onto people. We didn't want to sell it as, listen guys, we're going to moan and you're going to listen and know what we're moaning about, kind of thing. We just thought, what's the value in having that as our root kind of ethos? So we wanted to give sort of information of people who haven't, the light is not shined on them as much. Casting directors, editors, writers, or everyone. It's just everyone, really, not just the sort of...
Yeah, anybody who's not the main actors or director. And it's not that we don't want to talk to them,
It's just an addition to. So it's not just talking about people in the limelight. We want to hear from... Because like editing, we were talking about this, weren't we? About how editing is an incredibly detailed and artistic and skill. And I'm reading an editor's autobiography at the moment, and I'm like, man, this Star Wars. I was telling an editor about this, about how there's a scene in Star Wars where Luke Skywalker, when Luke Skywalker gets his lightsaber for the very first time, and it's like white, and it looks completely different from all the other times he has it. Anyway, why they haven't changed that, I don't know. But anyway, that scene, R2-D2 gives the message from Princess Leia about she's been captured, yada yada yada. Well, that actually happened halfway through, and they were like, and the editor said, the way this has been filmed, why are they talking? Suddenly the message is given, and then they just carry on talking about something else. And they were like, yeah, that sounds really weird. Like they then just stopped talking about like going to rescue her. So they literally just switched the scenes around, and then it played a lot better. So that was down to the editor's advice, really. Obviously the director has final say, but we'll obviously listen to the editor. So that was manipulated in that way by the editor. So the story is really told to a system of cuts, really. So we wanted to sort of shine those kind of stories out there if people want to listen.
Yeah, which is very cool. Like, super cool.
Some very, very funny but brilliant moments. Like there was one with Joel Devlin where he was talking about filming with John Malkovich, and somebody was about to come in the shot or something, so he was doing faces to get them out. And John was he that close, or? Yeah,
it was like a church was burning down, and it was like a really emotional moment, and he was looking across. I can't remember what the specific scene, what he was doing, but yeah, he was going like, can you get out of the shot, like doing that? And obviously he was behind the camera, like very close, and he was like...
He then goes, that's great, Joel, but if you could stop with the faces. So having those moments, which you wouldn't hear about because they wouldn't be documented, or they wouldn't be...
they're lost.
Yeah,
they're lost.
Exactly. Or those people aren't interesting, in inverted commas, for the general people to listen to or to want to listen to. So that was our main aim, to shed light.
And let it evolve, really. I mean, and just to see where it goes, kind of thing. It will evolve naturally as we become more skilled, because it is a skill. Interviewing, it's not so much interviewing, but it is certainly a skill.
It is.
And it is. But I wouldn't say we were interviewers, really, are we?
I think we're generally pleased if we can ask questions and they spend most of the episode talking.
Yeah, people always apologise, like, oh, we've just spoken so much. I'm like, no, like we're not here to give 2-sentence questions with a one word answer. So we're pleased for.
How have you found it on your side?
It obviously depends on the guests. I have a tendency to, if I'm desperate for a drink, I will make sure I ask a very in-depth question and then go for my glass of water, because I'm just like, because I think obviously depending on the guest, there are some guests that it's very much free flowing, and we're all kind of chatting, or we're all kind of laughing or whatever, and then there are others that you can kind of just ask them a question and they just go. And it's like, it is quite nice when there are segments where you can just kind of take a little bit of a step back, because I feel like I'm very much very much the preparer. I like having all my little questions that I want to ask, and then I'm also listening to then try and figure out if I can pick out any more questions. So I feel like I'm on that whole time. So if I can have certain sections where I can just be like, okay, they've got this.
Also, I found that it's a skill in the sense of when you've got a great burning question. There you go with your glass of water. Good one there. You've got a burning question, but you're like, I have to stop thinking about this and just let them talk.
Yeah.
And listen properly, and then more often than not, I just have to let that question go, and I can't ask them because it's gone on to something else now.
That has literally happened. In fact, that happened for episode 11. There were like so many questions that I wanted to ask this particular actor. Are you
allowed to reveal who?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not fast. I mean, it's coming out, so what's he going to do? Say, no, you're not allowed to review
your
it.
NDAs are keeping you quiet.
No. It's the actor is Lee Arenberg. So he's probably the most, well, if you've seen Once Upon a Time, which is kind of more popular, I guess, in Canada and like sort of in the UK.
Yeah, I haven't watched it, but I've watched bits of it. It's not.
Yeah, he's grumpy on that. And also he is grumpy, but as in he's classed as a dwarf on it.
He hated being there.
He just literally hated every day. He's the grumpiest grump. But no, he's kind of the most recognizable, I guess, from Pirates of the Caribbean, where he was one of the pirates. It's like,
with Mackenzie.
Oh yeah,
yes,
I know who you mean.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Is he English?
No, he's American.
Is he?
Yeah.
Great accent. I did not realise.
I was about to say, I genuinely thought he'd be British.
Yeah, no, it's that hello, Poppy. It's just so good. Like, and I wanted to get him to do that on the podcast actually, but because he was like on a roll, and and you just think, I don't want to be too like fangirly. Like, can you just record this? I've actually asked him afterwards, and he said that he'll like send me a little doodah. But yeah, I mean, but there were so many questions that I wanted to ask, and also both Snezina and I kind of prepped for a specific type of episode that it was going to be, but then it ended up being like completely different. So you just don't really know how it's going to be, and like. So it's totally fine. I think that's what I love about doing a podcast is you kind of can have an idea, but really it's whatever the guest wants to bring on the day, really, to be honest. So
you end up evolving it to make them comfortable so that they open up, because by doing that you do get these snippets and these moments or these long form conversations which can get really in depth, can't they? Because exactly, to repeat myself, by letting it go the way they want to, they feel more comfortable, and then they open up. And
totally. And the thing is like, but because we kind of allowed him to, not allowed him, but you know what I mean, kind of let him kind of just kind of go on the topics that he wanted to talk about. I kind of even said to him whilst we were recording the podcast, I was like, hey, I feel like we've got so much more that we can talk about. Would you be open to coming back on? And he was like, yeah, like this is like a great podcast. And I was like, cool. Because obviously there is a lot of pressure when it's someone who, I mean, like I do know Lee, and that's only because I did I think I was like 100. I was on there 100 times as like different background. I was like a nurse, and then I was a villager, and then I was this, and I was a stand-in. I was like a stand-in for like the main woman. Can't remember her name. Ooh. But anyway,
what film was this?
Yeah, what was this?
Oh, Once Upon a Time,
right.
the TV series. Yeah, so I was just on it all the time. It ran for 7 years, and it was all filmed in Vancouver. So I was just forever. Oh yeah, and I was like Little Mermaid for a little bit. I mean, it was just fun. But so that's how I got to know him. So it took like every fiber of my being to be like, hey, do you want to come on my podcast?
Oh, that's nice.
I remember years talking about Once Upon a Time. Years ago, I was much younger, and I'd not watched the show, and I went to go see Othello at the National Theatre. And I was sat down just minding my own business, and these two Americans come over, and they go, "Oh, do you mind if we come and sit with you?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure for it." Started talking to them. I being a young actor, went, "I'm an actor, man." And so, what do they do? And they go, "Oh, we're actors as well." And I was like, "Oh, brilliant! Have you done anything I'd have seen?" And they were, "Yeah, we're in this show, Once Upon a Time. You might have heard of it." And I went, "I have heard of it. Yes, that's the one with the girl from House in it." And they said, "Yeah, she's our daughter." And I said, "What do you mean your daughter?" He said, "Well, I play Snow White, and he's, I think, Prince Charming." Josh Dallas, is that his name?
I think so. He's a lovely. He's actually lovely. But yes, I think it is. I think it is Josh. I think you're probably right. I think it's Josh Dallas or Josh D something.
But it was one of those where I remember sitting there going
crazy.
like, "Whoa, these are a whole nother they're a whole nother level." And it's a shame that like my current self is going, "Damn, if only I'd met them today." Then I've gone, "Yeah, do you fancy being on a podcast whilst you're here? I know you're on holiday, but come on, do some."
Oh, they would have loved it. They'd have been like hair flicking all over the place. Because I think I don't know how you guys feel when you reach out to people, but I always feel like I think I've got a bit more confident, but I almost feel like, do you want to come on this like podcast? But I think now I'm realizing that actually a lot of people are quite they're quite flattered coming on to a podcast and talking about themselves.
And a lot of people fear it. A lot of people are scared as well. A lot of people are like, "No, I can't do that. I can't talk about myself." A lot of people we've had who've said that. Well, not a lot, but there's been a fair few who are like, "I'm just terrible at answering questions and things, but here, talk to my friend so and so, they'll be good to listen to." But I was going to say earlier, like after a podcast is finished, sometimes I feel exhausted.
To go back to what you were saying, Jennifer, I completely understand the feeling of, "Do you want to come on our podcast? I'm not sure, is this kind of going to be your thing?" And because we do it over emails, a lot of ours. I remember at the beginning we were very like, "Oh, do you think we can send it to that person? Are they going
well,
to
there
reply?"
still is that consideration.
Certainly, but I think as we have added more and more episodes, we've got slightly ballsier with asking. We nearly had Dara O'Brien on.
I did see that on Twitter and I liked it as well. I was like, come on, an extra support.
Yeah.
He we emailed his agent and apparently we weren't far enough afield for but I was gutted because I'd have loved to have spoken.
I don't know what he meant by that.
No, I don't understand that.
Maybe he was just looking for some. I mean, is he known abroad? I don't know. Is he known in Canada? I wouldn't have thought so.
I would assume so.
Canada's quite big for comedy and improv and all that, aren't they?
Yes, it is.
You've got Second City over there. So
yes.
I can imagine that he is maybe not well known, but certainly known over there.
Yeah, it's got to be. It's got to be. I mean,
maybe. But then again, like Alan Partridge isn't as well known abroad and things like that. Even there's massive things like that.
But I think for something like Alan Partridge, his humour and his work is very British.
Yeah, but so are all our British comedians. It's all very British.
But
that's how it's known. Think how popular Monty Python is. And
I think stand-up is different to comedy that you'd see on something like Alan Partridge.
Maybe. I mean, it has obviously got a following. I mean, I don't know, but it has got a following there, but it's not as known. Like The Office. That's very
that's
British.
Exploded.
And then they copied it.
Yeah.
And then they copied it in Germany and they copied it in Netherlands, I think they did as well. Because they were talking about when he puts the stapler in the jelly.
Yes.
Yeah.
In each country, there was like a different dessert, I think. And like it was like a blancmange in like France and like a cheesecake somewhere else, I think. And I was listening to Ricky Gervais talk about that.
I didn't know this story.
Yeah.
How did you meet your agent out in Canada? Out of interest, was it you were just over there for work and you?
I lived in Canada for 8 years.
Okay.
I'm a dual citizen, so I can escape England if I really want to.
I'm very jealous, by the way.
Yeah.
My brother was born in Kansas, and so is a dual citizen from that.
Oh, so yeah, that's. I feel like that's cooler, to be honest.
Because he needs an American passport,
exactly.
doesn't he? You don't.
It's one of those where, as an actor, I'm like, God damn it.
I know. Although Canada's pretty great. It's kind of known as like Hollywood North. So if you were able to get something for Canada, I mean, it's so busy there right now. It's like insane. They've got like a great tax break for productions that come up from the States to shoot. So long as they hire, so they can hire the leads can be American, but everyone else, all the supporting, all that stuff has to be local in Canada. So that's kind of how so many Canadians are like in stuff, because that's shot up in Canada from the States. So yeah, I mean, Canada's like a real hotspot. It's basically also the voiceover hub of the world as well, which is just so unknown for like.
They've got some great studios there in Vancouver. I know a video game I went for, I don't know if I'm allowed to say, but it was a very big one. I didn't even know what it was until I asked my mate. He was like, "Yeah, that's what you've gone for." And I was like, "Okay." And that was in Vancouver.
Yeah.
And I know Watchmen, that was shot there. All their special effects stuff, that was shot there.
Yeah. X-Files, Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah. And David Cronenberg, he's Canadian.
Yeah.
Great director.
Great.
Well, there are loads of massive, talking about comedy again, loads of massive comic actors. Jim Carrey's Canada, isn't
yeah, he is. Yeah.
Jim Carrey, Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah.
Those are the two.
Canadian actors. But I was actually in a Canadian show called Ransom.
Oh yeah, I know.
It had a that's filmed in it's filmed in Europe. I mean, it was shot in Toronto, I think, season 1, but that's all filmed in Europe now. But it's under an American banner. They're all pretty much, apart from the lead who's English, but they're all Canadian actors, but they're all under like American. It's American money, so they have to market it as if it is American.
Oh, of course. I mean, that's why a lot of people are so surprised when they hear stuff is shot in Canada or the specific actors are Canadian. It's like, what? Canada and Canadians? What? Because I think the real heavy hitting kind of money comes from America, and so even when they shoot up in Vancouver or somewhere kind of in beautiful British Columbia, they have to make it look like it could be the States.
Yeah. What's the detective show they have? My dad always watches it. It's like a 1900s-y one.
1900s-y one? I mean, there's so many.
It's like a period one, but it's like a detective procedural type thing. That's out of Canada. I know I've watched that before. That was quite good. I forget the name of it. Oh, it's very popular. It's just the guy's name. Anyway, moving on.
It's all right. We'll come back to us. But
I was about to say, I'm sure something about you were saying.
Oh yeah, about how I met Snezhina. Sorry, is that what you were saying?
But no, because you said you were dual citizen in Canada.
Yes, so I'm dual. Yeah.
And were you just over there on like holiday or for work?
No. So basically, what happened?
Found the passport.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, and I just put my picture on there. And no, I so when I was when I was 18, almost 19, my parents, they'd always wanted to go to Canada. And they tried when I was a kid and it just didn't work out. So when I was about 18, 19, it kind of all aligned. And they were like, well, you can stay behind in England or you can come with us. And I'm like, I don't want to come with you guys. That sounds far more fun. Screw my friends. I don't care. And then we all moved to Halifax, Nova Scotia. And
do you know what Nova Scotia means?
New Scotland.
It does. Good. Yeah. I'm glad you know that. I love that.
Well, I also used to live in Scotland as well. So it's it's a funny joke to be like, oh, I tried out the old Scotland and then I thought I'd crack on the new Scotland afterwards.
I'm glad I set that up there.
Yes. Well done, you. But yeah, so I was in Halifax for 5 years, and then and I went to a theatre school. It was just a quickish program, not anything like years and years. And then I got into acting. Then I actually wasn't into acting at all when I was in the UK. Like growing up, I just thought everyone, that wanted to be an actor just had berets, and that was far too cool for me. So I just kind of ignored all of that. And then,
and I was your beret.
No, I think I might have a beret somewhere, but it's probably dusty.
Do you mean beret? Are we talking about berets? Beret's American, man. The green beret.
She was in Canada.
Yeah, I was in Canada.
Why are you saying it then? He's trying to exclude me from the the accent cool club here.
No, not at all.
Not at all.
It's that thing where you want to connect with someone. So what you do is you mimic. So it's like so it's fine.
She gets it. There you go.
I get it.
Yeah.
I like how you said she gets it and points at
the
screen. In the box, the computer box sitting here.
Yeah. But anyway, so I after I think then I moved from Halifax to Vancouver, and then when I got to Vancouver I then started the process to apply for citizenship, because you had to be in the country, I think it's something like solidly not leaving at all for I think it's about 3 or 4 years, and then you can apply for citizenship. But I was technically a landed immigrant for most of that time before I actually applied for citizenship. So
and theatre, obviously TV and film, it's very, very prevalent there. Theatre world, what's it like in Canada?
There's just not. I mean, in Nova Scotia, there's quite a lot of independent theatre, and there's like maybe one big theatre that you could go to, but it is very much like independent, that kind of stuff.
And I guess they can't really do touring, can they? They can't do touring because it's like, okay, we've now got a 10,000-mile drive to go to the next theatre, whereas in England it's like you just drive anywhere in a day, really.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I do think there are some of those like Canada-wide tours, but I mean that would just be mammoth because I mean, wow, Canada's so big in comparison to obviously England. But yeah, I think theatre, and even over in Vancouver, theatre just isn't. I wouldn't really. Maybe in Toronto might be better for theatre, but Vancouver and Halifax, the two places I was in, I personally don't think theatre was all that shit. Don't think it was all that
all that shit.
all that shit.
For everyone who's not watching the video,
I just knocked my pop filter. Yeah, but like the thing is like, so when I got into voiceover in Vancouver, there are just no chairs in the studio. You just have to stand, and like they're always talking about how it's good to be able to like move your body, like kind of get all the energy, etc., etc. So when I came back to England, and they were like, "Oh, here you go. Here's your section," and I'm like, "Oh," and I was like, "Fuck, how do I sit down and also give energy? This is so weird." So I was like on the edge of my seat, like almost ready to fall off. I find it really strange. So for me, I like to be able to move around. Usually my back kills me after like an hour and a half, but like, that's why I try and move around.
How have you found the difference? Obviously chairs are a difference, but have you found the difference between voice acting over there and voice acting over here?
I guess there's so much more animation over in Vancouver.
Right.
So where I was going out for animation just kind of constantly, that was something that it was kind of weird to go to kind of come to here and then to be all for like commercial stuff, because it was like, oh, interesting.
Does that a lot of kind of dubbing work, or is that new animation that they then animate around you?
New animation, like as in, so there's so much new animation out in Vancouver. It's insane. It's like insane. And like also a lot of the like things like I think Yu-Gi-Oh and all those kind of shows get that all the English dubbing goes to Vancouver also. But
so is that done through Funimation, or is that the name of the company?
Possibly. I don't know, because obviously by the time it goes to the studio, you kind of, unless you actually book the gig, you probably won't know all of the specifics.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, that's the only biggest difference, I guess, because obviously over here now I feel like it's mainly commercials and video games rather than like animation. When I get an animation audition, I'm like, oh yes.
So you say animation is your favorite to go to?
Yes, of course. Yes. Being trapped in a box and allowed to like go nuts. I mean, being trapped in a box is obviously fun for me anyway, but just like being able to be like monsters and like just change my gender just for fun, like, because I love like voicing little boys, because it's just really hilarious, like just that kind of like you just get so excited. So whereas obviously with commercials you're very much like, hi, buy this brand, enjoy, it's all this like or not.
Whereas with animation you get to just have a lot more fun.
Yeah, and you just go nuts. Yeah.
That's
so
great.
Much more fun.
Heard Keely Hawes because she used to be Lara Croft, didn't she?
Oh, amazing!
I heard her talk about that. She had to like do the like running and like,
and then
that and stuff like that. She had to do a whole like session of just doing that and like getting knocked over and shot and things and eaten by a tiger.
On the podcast that I listen to, that Critical Role, there are times where they joke and they go, okay, 10 death noises, okay, 10 hits to you, and you hear them all sort of go, and it's
yes.
like, oh my god, somebody pays you to just grunt at a microphone.
Yes.
That's
and it's
so
like
brilliant.
I was talking to Adam, who we were talking about the other day at the studio, and he was saying how in like, well, obviously it's self-evident, but in Red Dead Redemption and things, when you're in the video game, when the person rides away, they have to do the same line but different volumes, because sometimes they're shouting out to you depending on how far away. Sometimes they're like just talking to you here and or a little bit louder, or if they're interrupted, they then have another line to say. And it's just like ridiculous about the amount of combinations of dialogue. I know Rogan, he said when he was doing the UFC game, he had to like call out every single like move that was happening. He was just like, I'm not doing this again.
Well, I lent Ollie my game of Spider-Man, and the difference between you can have different voiceover parts for that where it depends if he's swinging through the air or if he's walking or running. So there'll just be different voices dependent on how energized he is at that moment in time, which I thought that's mental, the level of detail that's gone into that. I imagine it could be quite a few hours in there with your voices just by the end of it gone.
Done. Yeah, that's why you've got to leave the screaming stuff to the very, very end, because otherwise, if you start doing that from the top, so exhausting. I remember just saying there was a video game that I did like years and years ago, and I literally had to say this line over and over again. It was like, I'll put this in my notebook, and literally it was like, oh, I'll put this in my notebook. I'll put this in my notebook. And it's like, how many ways can I possibly say? But that was like seemed to be like the theme all the way through. And then there was like I think there was like potentially where I was like hanging off a train and I had to keep screaming, and they were like, okay, you good to go one more? I'm like, I don't know if we can record.
I'll put this in my notebook.
Was this for a game?
Yes.
Did you ever then play the game and hear you in it?
Yeah. It's super weird and trippy.
That's so weird.
It was called The Secrets of the Dragon Wheel. It was like a PC game.
I don't know. I was about to say I haven't heard of that one.
Yeah, it's not,
That's good though. That is so weird
to
like hear it in, because one thing being in a film or TV, but then in a video game, it's like because you're interacting. Yeah. And so many people are playing it. It's not just they're watching passively; they're like playing with it, and that would be so weird.
I've got a friend who voiceovers for this new PC space game thing, and she plays like an AI in it. And it's such a big character, or people are going to love her character so much that she got brought on a podcast, and they were saying, "Hey, we've seen that you've been editing like Let's Play videos," and she's like, "Yeah, but my computer's quite old, and I'm having trouble with it." And he said, "Oh, we'll tell you what, we'll set up a Let's Get Fund, whatever you call it, page to get you a new computer." And she was just like, "Nah, I don't need to do that." And apparently, she was hounded for so long about when are you going to do this GoFundMe that eventually she just put it up, and then within about 10 minutes, she had over £1,000.
Wow.
And now has like an almost state-of-the-art new computer for editing, for playing, for doing all these things on. And I was just like, the communities that some of these games have, particularly when they have a character that they enjoy or love so much.
That's really nice,
It's crazy, yeah.
It's really nice.
I was exceptionally jealous because it's a really good computer as well. And I was like, oh, man.
You set up a GoFundMe and it's like 8 pence or something after like 2 hours.
8 pence 2 years later.
It's like you had to pay for the rental of the GoFundMe page. I know Stephen Fry, who does the Harry Potter books, he said in the first one, there's a line that says, Harry pocketed it. And he rang J.K. Rowling, or she was there or something, and he said, can I not say that? Can I just say Harry put it in his pocket? Because I can't say this very well. And she just said, no. And now, every single subsequent book, she's written that in. She's written Harry pocketed it, so just so Stephen Fry has to say it in the audiobook version.
Pocketed it. Oh, that's really hard. That is really hard.
Pocketed it.
Yeah.
I can't even say that. Anyway, I'm telling Stephen Fry's anecdote there, but thanks very much.
That's all right.
But it's your anecdote now.
It's my anecdote now.
Own it.
Yeah.
It's on a podcast. It's it's immortalized.
Is there a film, or what is the film you are ashamed you haven't seen? Make it a really, really good one.
So no pressure at all.
To be honest, there's probably quite a few that I'm quite ashamed that I haven't seen.
Really?
But let me try and think of the most shameful.
One that you're like, I can't even say that. Like, I can't even tell them that. I'll have to go for a slightly less one. What's the worst one?
Stand By Me.
Okay. That's not something.
That's good. Okay, that's good then.
Yeah, maybe. I think that should be it. That is have you seen it?
No.
Oh my God, have you not?
Thank you.
Exactly why I'm not feeling that bad about it.
Yeah, there's probably definitely a few more that
come up with 2 more.
Oh, for goodness sake.
We've had Star Wars a lot.
Oh,
We've had E.T. the other week. We had one guy who was a big film buff who hadn't seen The Dark Knight, and it was a bit like, mate, that's
yeah. I mean, sorry, I shouldn't put judgment in my face. It was like,
For our listeners, Jennifer had judgment all over her face.
All over my face. Well, I actually met someone the other day who
And the
told
fact you
me
had to tell you, I've not got any judgment. It means you definitely have got judgment.
definitely had judgment. Yeah, I met a girl the other day. To be fair, she was in her early 20s, and I kind of brought up Neverending Story, which is like one of my favorite films.
Oh.
And she's like, "What's that?" And I'm like, and I was like, "What? Like, how can you not? That's like sacrilegious."
Was it that Simpsons episode? He goes, "There hasn't been a lawsuit this big since the Never-Ending Story ended," or something like that.
But exactly, you've given a prime example there of when somebody's given you an answer, and it's a full body experience, isn't it? Where you go,
it's like, what? Yeah.
My girlfriend and flatmate are not film buffs in any way, shape, or form, to the point where when I first
sorry, when you said that, I thought you meant you said my girlfriend and flatmate, as if they were the same person.
She lives outside in a tent.
But when I first started going out with her, I said, "Oh, it's a bit like it's Robert De Niro in such and such," and she goes, "Who's Robert De Niro?" And I was like,
"Oh, man.
What?
This needs to change."
Yeah,
That's bad.
Yes, it was.
How can you avoid it? That's what I don't understand. How do you avoid? Like, you'd have to actively avoid it. Like, I don't watch football or anything. But if you were to say a footballer's name, I'd be like, "Yeah, I know who you mean," just because I am alive, basically, and I just like listen and think. But no disrespect to
none at all.
to,
She's a chef who is brilliant and can run circles around me when it comes to cooking. In fact, she's taught me a lot about cooking, so all of that.
Who really cares about that?
I mean,
well, I mean,
he's already
come
big
on,
enough.
we've all got
I know.
to.
Sorry, guys. I was
Exactly.
joking, but
Awkward.
Shut up, Ollie. God. But anyway, yes. So your answer, Stand By Me.
Yeah, we'll go
We're
with
gonna
Stand
love
By
that.
Me.
We should have like a vault where it goes.
yeah. You have to
but
go and watch that now.
I do have to go watch that.
Both of you.
I've got lots to watch.
Yeah.
No.
No.
Anyhow, Jennifer,
Okay. Yes.
we've had a brilliant time with you. Thank you so much.
It's been so
for coming
fun.
on
Thank
the
you.
podcast.
And for those listening, again, check out Actor and Agent on all the popular podcast host providers.
After you've watched
Services.
Crossing the Line,
Of
obviously.
course, yes. And should we going on YouTube in 3 weeks' time? Did you say?
Yes.
3 weeks' time. So make sure you like and subscribe to Actor and Agent, as well as liking and subscribing to Crossing the Line, something that we never ever do on here.
We always forget.
Yes,
We
which
always
you
forget.
should.
We should.
Absolutely.
Does it
Yes.
make a difference? Not sure. Make it a difference, guys. Like and
Make it a
subscribe
difference,
now.
everyone.
And click the bell.
You
Click
be the
bell.
change we want to see.
Click the bell.
Exactly.
So thank you all for coming on again, and thank you, Jennifer, for coming and speaking to us. You've been brilliant.
Good night.
It's been fun. Bye.